guys, there has been talk and questions around Parker on the Porch's Facebook group about these planner bands that hold pens. So I thought today I would go ahead and make the 3-pin large one, and it fits in a 5x7 hoop. And I was gonna add my little girl's preschool teacher's name. So we just got her name announcement. She hasn't started yet. And her name is Miss Erin. So I am in my software, and this is Embrilliance, and I wanted to show you guys how to add a name, and then we're going to stitch this out. So I have the design open. I'm going to go up here to add a name. I'm going to go to this A that lets you add font, and then you need to go over to here. This says letters. You go there, and this is where you write what you want it to be. So I'm going to add Miss Erin, E-R-I-N, okay. And then I'm going to hit set, and it puts it right there. And then you can pick your fonts. They'll be right here. Now, this is which one I'm going to use. There's lots of fonts in here. The ones that come with Embrilliance will be in here. A lot of these ones I bought, so you won't have the same. Make sure, the thing that's nice about Embrilliance is that it works with Macs. You can see I'm a Mac user, so a lot of the programs don't work with Macs, but this one does, and that's why I picked it. But it's really easy to use, and also, if you buy BX fonts, make sure they're BX compatible, then you can load them into this software and you can just type and pick what font you want. If you don't have BX compatible, you have to bring in each letter by itself, and then you have to move them around, so it's a little bit of a pain. So I'm going to go ahead and put that there. I'll size it a little bit. If you want to size it, you pull here. And Brilliance also increases stitches and decreases stitches, so you can kind of mess with the design a little bit, and it should be fine. So if you see down here the stitches counts and stuff, it shows you there. So if I go ahead, let me see if I leave it here. If I go ahead and pull to make this a little bigger, and then move it over, you can see that the stitch count changed. So this software helps that as well. I don't suggest changing any of your designs too much because you might not have a perfect stitch out for like very detailed things, but for fonts and stuff it's completely fine. And so I go ahead and I have that there. And I'm going to go ahead and save this, and we're going to stitch this out. The other way you can do it, this is the only way to put the name on here if you only want to do one hooping. If you wanted to go ahead, if you don't like it right here, and because we're going to put pens here, so you're not going to see the name as much as going to cover up the name. If you wanted to put it along here, you're more than welcome to do that. See, all I would do is click on it. You can move it, but I'm gonna move it like this and then pull it down. Say you would rather have it like right here, and then you'll see it all the time without pens on top of it. I can do a second tutorial and show you how to do that, but that requires 2 hoopings, and it also requires lining up stuff a lot more than what we're gonna do here. So I can do 2 videos, but right now I'm gonna do this one, so I'm gonna move it back. This is one hooping with a name on the Parker on the Porch's large 3-pin planner band. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And the way I do it here, you just go up here and go File, and you're going to do Save As, Save Stitch File As. And then I'm going to name it, and I'll put it on my desktop, and then I'll put it on my thumb drive, and I will stitch it and come back and we will start. Okay guys, I am over at my machine. I have regular tearaway hooped onto my machine. I have the design up. I'm going to be doing this one, and I put the Miss Jessica on there. I showed you on my computer how to do Miss Erin, so this is what it looks like. I stitched one out so I could walk you guys through it. So this is basically what we're making. but I'm going to do Miss Jessica, which is her other teacher. And let's get started. So first, the very first step is to go ahead and do your placement stitch. Right there, you can see at the top. And that's going to show you where you put your fold over elastic at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch that, and I will come back and show you what that looks like. Okay, there's our placement stitch. That's what it looks like. But now you're supposed to put the fold over elastic there, but we need to figure out what size to make that fold over elastic. And the reason the designs usually don't specify what size to do is because it's all determined on what size notebook you use, and there's so many variations in sizes that it would just be way too hard to just say use 12 inches or use 5 inches. So I'm going to show you how to figure it out. And what we need to do to figure it out is to know how big the design is that we're stitching it. And this shows you where the first spot is for the fold over elastic. I'm going to go ahead and skip some steps on my machine and stitch the bottom part of the fold over elastic. And that will show you how big the design's going to be in here and how long of a piece of fold over elastic you're going to need. So I'm going to go over to my machine. And everybody's machines are probably different, but you will have this icon that has the needle and the plus and minus. So I'm going to go ahead and push that. It brings me into my menu that lets me control my stitches and also my steps. So you can see I'm still on the step 2, and the minuses bring you back that many stitches, and the pluses bring you forward that many stitches. So if I pushed plus 10, it's going to jump 10 stitches forward, and that's where it's going to place. See this little green dot that shows you what we're stitching next. So that's stitches within a step. We're going to actually skip entire steps, which is you use these spools. This negative will bring you back a step. Let me just push it and show you. So it brought us back to the placement. If I jump forward one, it's going to bring you to the tack down, which is what step we're on. So I'm going to jump ahead again because I'm not going to do the tack down right now because I need to figure it out. So I'm going to jump one more, and it's going to give us the placement stitch of the bottom fold over elastic. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch that, and I'll come back and show you what that looks like. Okay, here's what it looks like. We have the top placement and we have the bottom placement down here. So what we're going to need now is our fold over elastic, and we're going to figure out what size we actually need. Now the sizing depends on what notebook you're going to use, and this is why the designers don't necessarily tell you what size of fold over elastic to cut, because these notebooks are all different sizes. We're going to do this notebook, and this is a 9.75 inch by 7.5 inch notebook. The important number is the 9.75 because your fold over elastic runs this way, so you need to know that number. But there's lots of different sizes. There's this size, which this is a lot smaller, which is 7 by 5. And then there's lots of planners, like this planner. Even though this is pretty similar to this notebook size, it's a little bit smaller, but not enough to matter. It does make a difference because it's super thick. So this is going to need more fold over elastic than this one. And this one's going to need more fold over elastic than this one. So it doesn't make any sense for someone to list what size to cut. So I'm going to show you how to calculate it and figure it out yourself, so then you can do it on any size notebook or planner, and you also can do it on any design that's a planner band, because the planner bands are very different sizes too. The one we're doing right now is actually really large. Oops, like this one. It's really big versus this one that's a lot smaller. So you're definitely going to need less fold over elastic on this one than this one. So I'm going to show you how to figure that out. So we have our design size right here. The design's going to be a little bigger than this. It's going to be up here, but this is where your fold over elastic gets held down. So you need to know these sizes. Now we're going to use this notebook. So we have the two things we need to figure it out. So I'm going to go ahead and put my fold over elastic under here. And if you don't know what fold over elastic is, it's basically this. It's stretchy elastic and it has pretty designs on it. I'm going to use this one. People refer to it as faux, F-O-E. So if you see that, this is what they're talking about. So go ahead and make sure that it's flat on the back and bring it forward. And then we need to know how big this design is. So I'm going to take my little ruler right here. And I'm going to measure between the two placement lines for the fold over elastic, and I'm approximately at 5 1/4 inches. So where that's important is that's how big the design's going to be right here. So you don't need fold over elastic going all the way through. So if I do 5 1/2, I'm just going to go ahead and bring that down. So I'm going to put that at the 0. And I'm going to bring this up to basically about 5 1/4, which is about right there. Now, you do not want to cut it right here, even though the design's going to fit right here. You don't want to cut exactly to the 5 1/4 because this is stretchy. So you're going to want to make it a little tighter, a little more snug. If you have this too loose, it's just going to kind of flop on your notebook. It's just going to, especially because this with a vinyl is kind of heavy. And you don't want it to be just really floppy because you have too much fold over elastic. So what I do is I measure exactly to where the design's going to be on both places, and then I take anywhere from like 1 inch to 1.5 inches off because you want it to be stretched a little so it sits on there firmly. So let me get to 5 1/4 right there. So if I went to 6 1/4, it'd be about right there. 6 1/4. And I'm actually going to just take a little bit more off. So I'm going to go right at the half. So I'm taking about 1.5 inches off right there. So I'll tell you how big that is. For this planner, like I said, it's 9.75. I'm going to use a piece of fold over elastic that is about 12. Right about 13 inches is how big this is. Now, you don't have to be so, you saw how I did it. I'm not super precise, and you really just want it to fit on there so it's not so tight that it's making the notebook bend, but you also don't want it so loose that it's floppy. So you have lots of leeway though. This is very stretchy, so it's not an exact science. So I would just, like I said, I would just measure it exactly to where the design fits, and then I would take anywhere from 1 inch to 2 inches off and you'll be completely fine. So let me go ahead and show you how we would do that on this little notebook again, just so you can see it. I'm going to take it around the notebook. It's going to be really big on this one. It won't really fit on this one because it's so small. And then you're going to go, oops, let me do quick over here, 0. There's the 0. I'm going to go all the way up to 5 1/4. And then I'm going to take anywhere between 1 and 2 inches off. Anywhere between, at minimum 1, and at the most probably 2 inches for any design is probably where I would go. So anywhere in there is going to make it work and fit. So you can choose, if you like it a little tighter, then cut off the full 2 inches. If you don't like it as tight, then go ahead and do like 1.5 inches. And a minimum I would do 1 inch. So then I would be cutting it right here, right there. And then you'd have that size piece for this notebook for the same design. I hope that helps and it's not confusing. But that will allow you to figure out what size fold over elastic you need for any design, any of these planner bands. So we got our fold over elastic. I'm going to meet you back over at the machine and we're going to go ahead and stitch this down. Okay guys, I'm back at my machine. Now I'm going to go back and reverse my steps because we want to get back to our tack down stitch, and we're on the placement of the bottom just so we could calculate the size of the design. So I'm going to hit this back spool. Oops, sorry, can't see. This back spool right here. There's one. You can see now I'm on the placement for the bottom. And there we go. So if we did it one more, you can see that that's the placement for the top. This is the tack down for the top. So we already got the placement. We're going to go ahead and do the tack down. And what you need to do, I'm going to pull the machine out. What you need to do on there is, it's up here. You need to take your fold over elastic and you need to place it right in the middle here. Now you can tape it up here. You can tape it down here if you want. So we can see it. Just in the middle and straight. And then you're going to stitch the next step, which is the tack down. It's just going to do this exact same line, and it's going to hold this top piece down. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch that, and then I will come back and show you what that looks like. Okay, that's what the tack down looks like. Now the next step's going to go ahead and do this placement, which we already have. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to the tack down. So now it's going to tack it down. So what you need to do is bring this around without it being twisted. You need to make sure it's not twisted. So bring it, you can see, bring it all the way down, and you want to lay it like this. So you can go ahead and tape it. And the next thing that's going to happen is it's just going to stitch the tack down right across there. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch that, and I will come back and show you what that looks like. Okay, this is what it looks like. We have this side down, tack down. We have that side tack down. Now your next step is going to be to put the placement stitch down for the whole design. So I can show you that. That's what it's going to look like. It's going to go ahead and stitch that. And so it's going to stitch higher than your tack down right here. So you're going to want to make sure that these are straight because it's going to stitch up here somewhere. And then it's going to come all the way around and it's going to stitch down here. So you're going to want to make sure these are straight. You can go ahead and tape these down on the top and the bottom, but you got to make sure that this is out of the way too, because it's going to do that full design all the way around. I kind of hold it like that and then I just follow this around with my hands, but you can go ahead and tape up here, tape down here, and then make sure to pull. This is stretchy, so it's not going to be that hard. But make sure it's out of the way for the whole thing. So I'm going to stitch that and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, this is what it looks like. It went ahead and stitched, my ruler, stitched all the way around. You see that it's stitched there, all the way, and stitched here. And this is still straight and free over there. Now you're going to need to get a big enough piece of vinyl to go all the way to cover all of this. Now, I was going to show you how big it is just because I'm doing the tutorial, so I will show you the measurement. So that direction is 6 inches. You're going to want to go a little bigger than 6 because that's the exact stitch line. So this way, 6 inches. And the width is 3 inches. So this way is 3 inches. And you're going, like I said, you're going to want to go a little bit bigger than that. So there's your measurement of your fabric. I'm going to use this. Now keep in mind on this design, the piece you're putting down right now is the background, not the front color. That's the part that's going to be in the back. So this color. That's which one we're stitching first. Now the next one will be this color, but you're doing this color right now, so whatever you're going for, pick that one. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the machine and then I will show you what we're stitching next. Okay, I have my piece of vinyl over the stitch lines. Make sure it's covering all the stitch lines, top and bottom and sides. Make sure your fold over elastic is straight down and straight up. And then you're going to have to hold that out of the way because you don't want that stitched as you're going. So the next step is going to go ahead and show you the placement line of what where your next fabric's going to be. Let me see if I can show you on here. I don't cover it completely. You can see the stitch that goes across here. That's what's stitching next, and it shows you where to line this fabric up to. I probably should put it a little higher so you don't see it when I do my designs. But that shows you the line you're going to put this top fabric to. So that's what we're stitching next. So whatever color you want that to be, go ahead and have your right thread. And you're going to make sure this is covered, and it's going to stitch it right along there. So get it lined up. I'm going to stitch that. That's what it looks like. It's a line. This is step 6. Go ahead and stitch it, and I'll come back and show you. Okay, there's what it looks like. That's where we're going to line our next fabric up to the top of your pin holder. Now the next step is going to do a placement square right here so you know how big of a piece of fabric to cut. So it looks like this. It's going to do that shape. It's step 7, and you're just going to go ahead and stitch it down on here. So now it's going to run along here. So make sure you hold your fold over elastic out of the way, or make sure it's taped. And when it gets down to here, make sure that this is straight, because it's going to stitch over it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stitch that and come back and show you. Okay, this is what it looks like. It's the whole point of that was to show you what size you need to cut for this top portion of your pin holder. Now this is going to be the pretty part. I use this cool rainbow. So that's what you're making right now, is this rainbow part. And I'm making this teacher's exactly the same. So I'm using the same vinyl, and I'm going to be placing it this way. I went ahead and measured already. So, but I was going to show you on the ruler what it was. So we know that this is 3 inches. And I was going to show you from here to there. I'm sorry. I'm not good with measurements. You're not going to want to be exact anyways, so I would probably just measure. You can see I'd measure right to like the 5 inches. You can do a little. This is why I don't tell people measurements, because they're like, oh, I wouldn't use that much, but you can see for yourself what the number is. So that's your size. I already cut this. I'm going to go ahead. Now what this line is for right here, you don't necessarily want to see it. You could see it on my design right here, because I placed it right under it. But if you don't want to see it, go ahead and place it a little bit higher. I'll try to get right over it. And you want to place it straight, because this is basically where your pins are going to be coming. So you could place it exactly where you want it. Make sure it's over all sides. And now you're going to go ahead and do the tack down. So the placement went like this. The tack down's going to do exactly the same thing. So I'm going to go over to my machine and run the next step, which is the tack down. It's step 8, and then I'll come back and show you what that looks like. Okay, this is what it looks like. It's down. So the next step is to go ahead and do the lines on the design, and you're going to want to take your hoop off and put fabric on the back. But if you remember, I added a name to this, so I have to do that before I put the back on. Remember, you do all details on things first and then do the back. So I'm going to jump a step again, because right now this is showing you the last step of this design. But because we added that name, Miss Jessica, in the Embroidery software, I want to add that before I put the back on. So I'm going to go ahead and jump this step. And you can see there's the name. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch that next. And then I'll come back to that last step. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch this, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Okay guys, this is what it looks like. We have the name there. We have the front. So now for the last step of the design, we need to go ahead and put our back on. So this is the back of my hoop. See all my writing. So you need to measure a piece of fabric that can go across all of these placement lines. So I'm going to go ahead and use the same vinyl I used on the front. You can use felt. This is going to be the back of your thing. So you can use whatever you want. I'm using vinyl, and I'm going to go ahead and tape that down, and then I will bring it to my machine and show you what it looks like. I just wanted to talk real quick about something else. Is on most of these planner designs and most designs in general, there's no stitches on the back. Normally you do all your details first and then do this last step is to put this on, and then it does the outline. So all you see is the outline on the back. The reason that this design, I want to show you, this one has the pen lines. You can do it where it doesn't have the pen lines. You could have stitched the pens first and then put the back on. Jen and her testers tested this design a lot, and because there's 3 pens in here and it ends up being really bulky, the design wouldn't lay flat onto the planner or the notebooks, whatever you were putting it on, with the lines not being there. What would happen is it was just so much pressure, this would get bubbly because the front vinyl and the back vinyl were only held a bit together by the outline. And then this back portion would get all bubbly and it wouldn't lay flat. So through testing, they determined that it laid the best by having these lines go all the way through both designs. So the back and the front were not only held together by the outline, but also by these 2 pen stitches. So that's why it's not an oversight. It was purposely done because the pens held up better against the planner by having them that way. So I just wanted to address that and let you know that that's why that's there. And let's go ahead and go to the machine and stitch our last step. Okay, it's on the hoop, but because I went ahead and stitched that name, it thinks the design's over. It says I finished sewing, but I need to back up. So I went ahead and hit OK, and I'm going to go over here to my steps, and I'm going to back up 1. It's going to give me the name. I'm going to back up 1 more, and it's going to give me the final stitch. So it's going to go ahead and stitch the pen lines, and then it's going to stitch around the whole entire design all at once. So you're going to have to watch your fold over elastic as it comes around and make sure that it doesn't get into any of the stitches. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Okay guys, this is what the front of the design looks like. This is what the back looks like. And so now you can go ahead and take it off your hoop. I get rid of all of the tearaway because I don't want to see it between the edges. So I get all the tape. And all this tearaway off. It is much easier to get this tearaway off when it's in big pieces than trying to pull it out of the little spots if you cut it to begin with. So go ahead and get that tearaway off. I'm going to throw it away. And your biggest thing here is don't cut your fold over elastic. Do not cut across this because you will cut this off and then you'll have to start over. So the way that I do it so I remember and I don't cut it is I cut on either side of these first. So I'm going to take these little scissors that I have and I'm going to put the tip of my scissors up to the edge of the stitches, not over the stitches because you don't want to cut them, but just to where you want, and I make 1 cut. I go to the other side, I make 1 cut, I flip it over, I do the exact same thing over here. Cut on either side, and it doesn't matter which side you start on now. I'm going to go ahead and put it in and cut this way. And then I'm going to go in and cut this way. I probably won't get exactly straight going left. When I come back around I can get that cleaner. But I want to make sure that I get around this fold over elastic so I don't forget when I get to the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and pull. This is stretchy. I'm going to pull this all the way down. See my hands here. If you pull it all the way down, then I'm going to cut this little tab off, making sure that I don't cut the elastic underneath. And then I'm going to pull it the other way and cut this other little tab off without getting the elastic and not cutting your string or your stitches right here. And I'm just going to get it kind of clean. Now I'm going to do that to the other side. I'm going to pull and cut this. Okay, I'm going to do this side. The reason I do the parts, and I don't do it super clean because it's a little hard to do in the beginning, is because you don't want to forget about it as you're just cutting along the whole square all the way around. You don't want to forget that this is here. So if you cut these edges open, then you know it's there. Okay, now I'm going to just start cutting around these curves. Just make sure you know where your fold over elastic is. And when I cut really close to the stitches without cutting the stitches. I think that it ends up becoming a cleaner look if you're close to it, so you have something to guide yourself off of. So that's why I do it. I'm going to pull my fold over elastic over here so I know that it's over here when I cut along this. I'm going to get bigger scissors because I have this long edge and I don't like short jagged cuts. So I get close to the edge and I try to make big long cuts. Okay, I'm going to go do the other side and pull the elastic over here. Okay, I'm going to cut this other curve with my little scissors. Okay, now all the edges are clean over here, but this top's still not, oops, sorry, I'm not showing, this top's still not the cleanest. So now that it's cut down, it's much easier to get it really straight and clean. So I pull this down really far and then I cut from the back so I can see my fold over elastic, but I also can see this lip, and you don't want to cut your stitches right there either. So you just want to line it up. Okay, I got that side. You can see that it's cut real clean. I'm going to do the exact same thing on this side. I'm going to pull it all the way down, and then I'm going to get a little closer here without cutting my stitches. Okay, so you can see I got it clean there. I got it clean over here. So now we can do that exact same thing over here, which I still didn't cut this straight line yet. Okay, so I'm gonna, we didn't cut this straight yet, so let me get this. Just be really aware where your fold over elastic is. Okay, now I can cut this edge really close. I can do the same on this side, and then we are done. There we go. So here you go, here's your design. Pull it back. Here's the back. And now let me get a notebook. Set this aside. Big old mess. And then we can test out our elastic and make sure that it fits right. There we go. It is on, and now you can fit 3 pins in here. And when you put the pins in, you have the little holes right here. And let me see if I can find one. It's going to cover up the name, so the next tutorial I'll show you how to do it where it's not there. So you can fit like 3 of those in here. 1, 2, 3. It does cover up the name. So I will go ahead and do another tutorial that shows you how to put a name right here. But that requires 2 hoopings, so it just depends on how much effort you want to put into the design. This, if I'm not doing a tutorial and just whipping it out, takes about 7 to 10 minutes. Doing the tutorial takes a lot longer because I'm talking through the whole thing. But it's a really fast design. But if you're going to go ahead and put a name out here, then you have to do 2 hoopings, and it's just going to take a little bit longer. But the next video, I'll go ahead and show you how to do it that way. Just so you can see, it's a little more effort, but it's well worth it. Let me see if I can get another pen in here. See if I have some different. This one's kind of a cool looking one. And then I have... Here's another one. I'll do this one so you can see 3 pins in here. You're going to have to get kind of thinner pins. There you go. A lot of the pens that are out now have, like these, have this rubber right here. It's totally not going to work in here. It's going to get stuck. And so you're going to have to, if you're making these and you're giving people, let's see, my lid came off. You're giving people the pens. It's kind of tight right now. Let me get it out. See, my pen got stuck because it's really tight because it's the first pens I put in here. But this rubberized stuff, well, I guess it works. It's really hard to get in and out though, I bet. Oh, it worked fine. Never mind, I'm wrong. I guess they do fit with the rubber. I thought that that was going to be way too hard to put in there, but I guess these ones fit too. So you're all good. There you go. That's what it looks like. Hope you enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you want to see more, and look for the next one that's going to have the name. Have a good night.